Well, this is Tom Mackin, the mayor of Perrysburg, and I'd like to call the city council meeting for May 19th to order. So roll call, please.
Okay, Ms. Bourne.
This is Councilwoman Deborah Bourne. I am phoning in.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman.
Corey Coleman, appearing by teleconference.
Very good, thank you. Ms. Materney.
Councilwoman Materney here, appearing by teleconference.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Matuzak.
Here.
Mr. McCarthy. Here. Mr. Smith.
Present.
And Mr. Van Hooser.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please stand and join me if you're able. Please stand if you're able and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
United States of America, a nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
President of Council, the minutes for the May 5th, 2020 council meeting.
Thank you, Your Honor. I believe everyone has received a copy of the updated minutes. I have not heard any changes or suggestions, so I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes of the City Council meeting of May 5th, 2020, as written, and dispense with the reading.
Second. Roll call.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bourne.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Materney.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Matuzak.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
And Mr. Van Hooser.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have no special reports today. I am unaware of any letters, communications, citizen concerns. So I'll start with my report, and there's been lots of developments since the last council meeting, so kind of just I'm going to report through a lot of items that have come up as questions probably received by council, and I know the administration has received them and has been working on them. So I'll start with sports-related activities. As most of you know, the governor has issued some guidance on specifically baseball and softball, although those can reopen. And we have been working with the youth sports in Perrysburg, and we anticipate that getting resolved relatively quickly so that can open sometime in the next week or two. We appreciate the cooperation from the commissioners of the baseball and softball in Perrysburg and their willingness to make sure that everybody who will be playing will be safe, and as well as families that will be watching and everyone involved. So we appreciate that very much. Tennis and pickleball, there has not been any official announcements about, but those are non-contact activities, and we are working on that. The governor said that those can probably open on May 26th, and we are working towards having those open on May 26th. It'll be next Tuesday. The governor also issued some guidance on the pool. That guidance is very clear and detailed, and so we are in the process of reviewing that and expect to have some evaluations of whether those can actually be accomplished, as well as the cost impact of operating the pool. So we expect to have more information to the public and to council in the coming days on that issue. Regarding the door, there's been much discussion about Bowling Greens and Toledo's. As everyone on council is aware, the day before the governor's stay-at-home order, we received the door packet from the uptown group. One of the reasons we kind of held off on it because we know it's a topic that will require some public attendance and participation, and we don't have that figured out yet. But we've been asked to bring that forward by the uptown merchants. So senior staff is in the process of reviewing that with the law director and the administrator, and we expect to have that feedback done shortly. Consistent with how we handled Levis Commons, once that report is prepared in the next couple of days, we will first meet with the people who submitted it to talk to them, see if there's any issues that can be resolved, to get their input on anything and kind of make them aware of what we're going to recommend. We then anticipate once that occurs that the administration will be bringing it towards council. We are aware that there's a time function once that occurs. And we also anticipate that there'll be a lot of people who want to comment on that. We know that to be the fact. So I've already talked to Jonathan a little bit about how we do that and how we make it available to the public, have a full chance to be heard, to the merchants who have made the application, that they have a chance to respond, to be heard. And so we go through that process. So we anticipate lots of developments on that in the next couple days and in the weeks to come. We've also got a lot of questions about restaurants and bars, especially downtown, and rights of ways and access. Administration, as you know, the city of Perrysburg has for a long time allowed downtown merchants to have tables and chairs set up out on the right of way, the curb between the storefronts and Louisiana Avenue. So that's already in place, and we're basically following that same approach for how we proceed forward. Most of the businesses already have permits to be out front, and we would expect that we have 7 approved applications for restaurants on Louisiana Avenue. We have the only non-approved applicant last year was Suburban Bottle. The application was denied because there was no need to allow her to have outdoor seating for serve alcohol at that time. You also have to make sure we comply with the state liquor control rules. So we're working with the downtown businesses to make sure that both the liquor control rules are complied with, but also that we make things available as best we can. We have had some questions about whether we can close the street. As council is aware, that's a state route, and there are trucks that go through there, so that's not really an option for us. And there's also been some discussion about parking. As became even more apparent when we had even issues with parking, when every place was closed, we still had enough parking right on Louisiana Avenue. So we'd be very hesitant to take away parking from down there. And I'm not sure that we would be safe to put people in the curb or in the parking on 25 with all the traffic that goes down or through town on Louisiana. So that's not really an option for us, but we are continuing to work with the downtown merchants to make sure that we can make as many accommodations as possible to make it so they can function and perform and serve their customers. Lastly, as everybody in the room knows, the council and the administration was graciously provided for pizza. That please don't use that encouragement that we should be here a long time. But I want to recognize Gavin Smith who provided that to us, and all the city departments, divisions, and have received lots of contributions, donations of food from council, from communities, from businesses, from residents, and the city staff appreciates that very much. It shows how much people care and the pride in this community. So I want to take an opportunity to thank everybody for that. Happy to answer any questions or give it to Bridget for the administrative report.
The city administrator, I have no report.
Tom, I had a question. This is Tim McCarthy. You mentioned his start reviewing the door. Is there any expected timeline on that?
Well, we've been reviewing it. We anticipate that when we need to go, we'd be ready. So we anticipate being able to have the administration review done this week, then to meet with the applicant. But just as soon as the applicant is available, so probably next week. Mm-hmm. And then we would bring it to council when I'm going to talk to the council leadership to see when they want that timing to start, because they're going to have some form of input meetings and those things and the like. So unless the applicant wants more time, which I don't anticipate, that's basically our timeline.
And we all got an email today from Jackie Benzel. What about Farmers Market?
The Farmers Market is controlled by the CVB. They have said that they will reevaluate it by June 15th. Farmers markets are allowed, and she was referenced. The problem, however, is, and I emailed back to her, and the CVB is going to look at all these issues. But the Toledo Farmers Market is shops, little stalls downtown where people can spread out and walk around and go and stand in line for a particular market or particular product. Ours has so many people. We have all the businesses with outdoor seating now. Then we have add all the little shops. Then add all the people, and it's going to be very hard to, because we can't also control the number of people. There's no way we can say only 100 people in, which is what the Toledo Farmers Market did to some degree. So we are evaluating how best to proceed with that. We know that's important to the community, and we also know that it brings people downtown, is good for the economy, and good for the sense of community. There's some real problems with the application of that, but the CVB board, some of you are a member, I anticipate meeting and talking about it. I forwarded that request to the Sandy Latcham, who's in charge of that, for review. I had a chance to talk to her, yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
Councilwoman Bourne, I have a question for you. How do they close the street for Harrison Rally Day?
I have not been involved with the specifics of that, but I know it's a one-day exemption.
Good evening. This is Bridget Cabot, City Administrator. The City Administration has a form that's designated for parades and assemblages, whereby an entity can request that a street or road be closed for a period of time, and that is submitted to the City Administration, to the Mayor's office, and then it is reviewed by myself, the Law Director, the Police Chief, as well as the Service Director, to see if the date and time lends itself to having a street closure and what the particular event is. So that is something that is routinely submitted by the Chamber of Commerce, in this case for Harrison Rally Day. And I do know from speaking with Ms. Latcham that they have not yet really submitted an application for that request for the parade assemblage permit, while she is also evaluating the governor's press conferences and gatherings over 10 individuals. So she's keeping an eye on that as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cabot.
Mayor Mackin. Go ahead. It's okay. This is Barry Van Huzen, council member, and just a follow-up question or comment regarding the outdoor eating or seating environment. And of course, this is in the spirit of knowing that these small businesses are struggling with the distancing that's being required. And I know you commented about, Mr. Mayor, about the prevailing rules regarding liquor, which is one aspect. The other would, of course, be food safety, maybe, potentially. And then, of course, just pure traffic, foot traffic. So if you have an environment in which, so I'm assuming liquor is the prevailing limiter, and then comes food safety. If you had a Perry's Burgers or a Poco's who wants to put chairs and tables on the sidewalk, is that something that they have to have a special request for? Or, and I'm referring specifically separating the food from the liquor.
Yeah, we have a process for that. Now,
Good evening again. This is Bridget Cabot. So the answer is it depends. If it's an entity such as, say, Zingo's, whose storefront sits directly on city right-of-way, so anything in front of their storefront is city right-of-way, there's a process that they can go about requesting the city to utilize that right-of-way. And Zingo's, in fact, has done that, and they have tables and chairs out and have had for a number of years. But if it's somebody like Poco Fiati, whose streets may be private streets, in some of Levitt Commons, those are not all public roads, so some of them are private. If it's a private street, they would have to probably talk to their to that business association that is formed out there and go that route. And they would still have to comply with all Wood County Health Department requirements, as well as the State Liquor Control Board requirements. But if it happened to be a city sidewalk out at Levitt Commons, then there is that process in which they could make that application, and then we review it internally and turn it around within just a few days.
and there's no real cost to somebody.
There's no cost to that for use the city right away. And your mention of the Liquor Control Board in reading their requirements today over the phone with Chief Jones, it does note in their requirements that they do not allow temporary expansion or retraction of outdoor seating space for those liquor permit holders. So it looks like it would be a very limiting factor if it's somebody who wanted to serve alcohol out into the right of way in an expanded patio that surpasses their permit footprint.
Thank you. I wasn't going to ask about that, but absent any liquor, yeah, for those that don't know who's talking right now, this is Jim Matuzak. For new listeners. Thanks, Jonathan. That's Jonathan that said that to me, by the way, everybody. I think I've read or seen somewhere that some other communities have kind of relaxed their rules on their outdoor seating just because of the issue right now when the only option they had was outdoor, if they're going to be outdoor. So something along that lines, is there something that we can do to help the merchants, even if they're not selling liquor, that they might not have a lease agreement with us or a special permit to do that, but for a certain time period, maybe relax that provision a little bit so that they can take advantage of it. Yeah, because if they're going to try to self-regulate the social distance within inside the restaurant, that means they're not going to use all of their tables, I would guess. So if they could expand outside a little bit without having to go through some government red tape to be able to do that.
Yeah, actually, most of them already have. We'll talk about two different things. One is the restaurants. Most of them already have permits downtown, and so that's not really a real issue. Some of the other ones, if they're in a shopping mall like El Vaqueros or something like that, that's private and not our issue. Same with some of the less common. That would be their internal structure, although some of them could possibly be ours as well. So ours basically is pretty, all they need to do is contact us, and it's pretty straightforward. As far as merchants and businesses, we have discussed internally, and we have not had any requests yet, but we're anticipating it from merchants saying, well, can I have a sidewalk sale, or can I put stuff out there? And we understand the need to do that, and looking at ways to make sure that that's done consistently and fairly, but yeah, to make sure the process happens very quickly. So all I have to do is make sure they contact us.
Okay. So in other words, you're willing to cooperate and be flexible with them. Okay, great. So then my questions were on the farmers market. I think Mayor Mackin, Jonathan Smith, and myself are on the board of the farmers, of the CVB. Is the decision to reopen, and if so, when to reopen, does the CVB have any restrictions as to when that can be, that are being placed on them by the city administration or the city, or is it pretty much they're good to go when they're ready, if they can get
well, they could, and I'll let Bridget talk about this. The CVB decided June 15th was which actually to some degree makes a lot of sense at this point, because now they have time to figure out what they want to do. Mm-hmm. The board has not met, as you know, and if we need to meet, I think that's something I would ask for, but I'm not sure. I think it can be done administratively once they figured out the process. Administration, the city is not hindering that, other than making sure that everything's being complied with. I think the biggest one is, what is a group of people? That's really kind of the issue, I think, to some degree for the CVB, from the way the director of the CVB conveyed, how do I control the number of people and how do I measure it? So that was the last time I talked to her, but I have not talked to her. The last couple of days. We have a call in with her tomorrow.
Okay. You good, Bridget?
I was just going to add to Bridget Cabot again that at the onset of all of this public health emergency, the city administration did make the decision to not allow organized sports organizations on city playing fields because we didn't know what the rules of engagement were. And same with use of city right-of-way that had not already been granted because we knew that there were some upcoming parades and festivals. And since we didn't know what the guidelines were going to be by the state, we did have a moratorium on that until June 15th. But as these new pieces of guidance come out from the state on the mandatory requirements to engage in whether it be baseball, softball, tennis, pickleball, et cetera, we then are peeling back that date now that we have rules and guidelines in which we can follow.
Okay. And lastly, I think it was about 2:45 today. I was informed of this, and I don't know how reliable it is. It was on the internet, though, so I'm assuming it was probably. And given the fact that the governor tends to speak at 2:00, and I heard this at 2:45,
I was told that his orders have been changed to strong recommendations rather than orders, and I don't know what that all applies to. Okay, so that might make a difference. And then I mentioned that because Mayor Mack, and I don't know if you intended to use this word or not, but you did. But you keep talking about controlling the people, and I don't think it's our job or anyone else's job to control the people.
I don't remember what the context that was in.
Yeah, well, you said we have a difficult time at the farmers market controlling the people because you were talking about how we have a lot more people than the city of Toledo does, where they go and they stand in line for something, and we're all bunched together, and it makes it hard to control the people. I don't think it's anyone's job to control the people other than the people themselves. And if there's somebody that's attending the farmers market and thinks that they're in too close proximity to other people, they're welcome to not attend the farmers market. But I don't think we should be trying to control what the people want to do and how they want to behave.
But I didn't say exactly how I meant to use the phrase, but
okay. I just want to make my position known, though.
That's fine.
Okay, thanks.
This is Councilman Coleman. If I could interject with a few things.
Please go ahead.
So as far as farmer market, the way I understood that, Mayor, was that we just have a difficult time telling how many people are going to show up. Therefore, proximity could be an issue. So I don't care whether it's an order or a recommendation from the governor. I think we have to take it for what it is, and if that's something we're uncomfortable with, that definitely should be taken into consideration. I certainly don't have an interest in controlling people, but I think we have to do what we think is right when moving forward with some of these organized activities. But I also want to talk about the downtown dining. Is there a way the city could help some of these downtown restaurants? I know we talked about the right-of-way, but that seems like limited amounts of seats. So is there something we could do, and maybe in the form, and this is kind of just me spitballing, maybe the administration can look into this, but like picnic tables or things like that at, say, like Hood Park and Riverside Park, or potentially working with the school district. I know they own kind of that big lot next to the administrative building there, so that diners have potential takeout and eat outside while enjoying downtown. I know there would potentially be issues with cleaning those and things like that, but I would certainly like to look into anything we can do to help out those downtown businesses.
Councilman Coleman, I know what you're talking about when you're talking about that area off of 3rd Street where people used to be able to sit at the park benches, or I should say the picnic tables there. I remember that as far back as just last year. Well, actually, last year. And people did do that, and the food trucks were also on 3rd Street. They're technically usually on Louisiana, if I remember correctly. But they were at that point. I think that was during Harrison Rally days. And people really did enjoy sitting at those picnic tables. I saw quite a few people do that. But although a lot of that area now, if I'm not mistaken, is a parking lot now. So I think there's no grass there whatsoever, but I could be wrong on that.
This is Councilman Coleman again. I was talking more about the parks. Yeah, I do remember that on 3rd Street, and yeah, I do. I think it is pavement now. But I was thinking of just ways we can add to the property that we own, and I do know that the school district does own that pretty big lot across from the library. So I don't know if that's something they would be interested. Obviously, we'd need some consent with them, but anything to help these downtown businesses, I'd be for exploring options to help create business on their behalf.
Well, I think that we could each one of us could go and support them by purchasing things at the local restaurants, not only downtown but all the local businesses in Perrysburg. I know I for years have gone to the local businesses and I believe very much in them. So I think we as council could maybe show a little bit of leadership by doing that.
Councilman Coleman, I would say we're happy to consider any suggestions we've been getting, lots of suggestions, and I appreciate them. And we'll work through if they're practical and they can be implemented and safety can be maintained and all that. So yeah, we'll certainly consider any suggestions.
Corey, were you suggesting maybe moving tables from the city parks to that area by the administration building for the schools? Is that what you were saying?
Councilman Coolman here. I was suggesting that if we have, I guess, extra tables or potentially picnic tables that are at, other parks that aren't in high usage areas, if we are able to place those more central to downtown, like if we have space at Hood Park or Riverside, where we could put an extra table or two so that diners could pick up their food and then walk to one of those areas where there's a bit of extra seating other than what's on the roadway already, or the sidewalks rather. That would be something that could potentially add more seating for those restaurants.
Hey, Councilman Coolman, I will share with you that at Riverside Park, as you go down there, a former councilman used to call them the Flintstone chairs. There are Flintstone chairs that are already down there that people can sit on. And also they can sit at the top of the park on the benches that are above as well at Riverside Park. And also there are benches over at Hood Park as well at the top.
Councilman
Coolman. Again, yeah. I'm just talking additional seating, not necessarily. I'm aware there's some seating there already, but if we could add to that. And then I also, since we're in kind of citizens' concerns, I don't know if anybody else got the email from, I don't know if I'm butchering it, Himalines that live on River Road, but I would like to read that into the record if someone could. Perhaps if someone's there that has that in front of them, if they could read that into the record, that'd be great.
Corey, I brought it with me. I was going to mention at the end of the meeting of the other business, but we can do it now if you want. But I just wanted to say, Corey, that if anything the administration can do to help provide additional outdoor seating, I would be in favor of that, because that would provide people with the additional option to distance themselves from others if they so choose to do that. So I think that would be a good idea if there's a way for us to do that efficiently.
I think the best idea would be possibly downtown if we could talk with the merchants that wish to have the seating outside, just provided we don't, this is Councilwoman Bourne, provided that we don't interfere with people that choose to walk through that area as well.
This is Councilman Smith here real quick. I'm going to circle back around a couple topics to provide a quick update here. Just regarding DOOR, I know that was the initial conversation, and I just wanted to relay this to Mr. McCarthy as well. I think the biggest concern is moving forward is, as we all recall, how DOOR was with Levis and how many people we had that wanted to come and speak on behalf of that. We have to take that into consideration as we move forward, that there's going to be numerous amount of individuals that are going to want to come in and have a say on this. So as we wait to see what's going to happen with these orders, there's a possibility we may have to have a separate public meeting, possibly at another location if it's going to be large enough to appropriately distance people, but we're going to have to wait till, I'm hoping sometime in June, to actually have that conversation. With the CBB and the farmers market, I do believe that, and I'm relaying this to the mayor as well as a fellow board member, is there's a way possible for us to have a potential board meeting to have that discussion. I think it'd be very important for us to do that as well, and I appreciate all the updates that you gave regarding the event, and I hope and with everything that I've heard tonight from the other council members, that the administration will be reaching out to some of the restaurant owners and merchants to hopefully find some solutions moving forward, and leave that in the hands of the merchants and as well as the administration to find a solution to help the businesses. Thank you.
Bridget, this is McCarthy. You answered me today. You've already addressed in part Mr. Himmeline's concern. So maybe if you could tell everyone what you told me in our email exchange.
Yes, thank you. Again, Bridget Cabot. So I did receive that complaint email from Councilman McCarthy as well as Councilman Attorney this afternoon. And we plan on speaking with our public service director and law director tomorrow to make sure what signage that we can put on both our property and perhaps suggest to the property owners either east of west of Davis Overlook on what signage that they could put out on their private properties as well to help mitigate people crossing from city property to private property and not being aware that they're doing so.
Is this at Riverside or which park is it? I didn't get it.
If you'd like, I can read this.
Davis Overlook.
Why don't we just say we're reading it?
Yeah, I'm going to read the letter to the record just so everyone.
It's real short.
Yeah, all right.
Very short.
My name is this is Councilman Smith reading the letter. My name is Marv Heimlin, and my wife and I live at 28315 West River Road and have done so for 20 years. We have noticed that we are seeing more and more trespassers on our property, particularly since Davis Overlook was opened. During the Wallet Run, we have come to expect that. However, increasingly, traffic has continued well beyond the run. The fishermen have worn a path along the river, and people not fishing are walking dogs and bringing children. They have become a nuisance. We have littering, noise, and have even seen people urinating on our property. I am respectfully requesting that the city place signage at Davis Overlook that indicates the properties east and west of the Overlook are private property and not public domain to pass around private property. I look forward to a response. Thank you.
This is Councilwoman Bourne, and I received the same email as everyone else regarding Mr. Himlet. I did respond to him, and he specifically said he was asking for signs to be placed in Davis Overlook because of the issue.
Well, the administration, they haven't gotten the email. Certainly will address that. That's okay.
I'll forward it over to you.
I did not get a copy, but that's fine. Thank you. That was pretty long report there, Bridget. Finance director report.
Okay, now for something completely different. My one item is summer schedule for council meetings. It's that time of year again that we usually consider what we want to do with the summer meeting schedule. I think everyone's aware that our charter allows us to skip a meeting in July and August. And usually I try to come up with just spread the meetings out so they're every 3 weeks instead of every 2 weeks. And given the current set of circumstances, I'm not sure how everyone feels about summer schedule. So, I mean,
Get your comments back to Dave as quickly as you can, or do you want to talk about now, or the best you got?
Councilman Smith, just make the recommendation, Dave, if you can create a potential schedule and just share it with council, we can make that decision. I don't think we need to labor over that here tonight.
Just something along the lines of what we usually do.
Yes.
Okay.
So Mr. Krupp, since you're offering this up, can it be assumed that the administration is still not going to, it's going to be a slow summer, even given the situation, or are things going to get pushed into the summer that otherwise wouldn't have been there because of this?
I will, that's a fair question. I would say, first off, as council knows, the administration has deferred a number of expenditures, and we would anticipate continuing to defer those expenditures until the budget situations are much more clearly defined. Council received basically a breakdown of what we've already saved and what costs we're deferring. Given that revenues will not be received before July 15th, I'm not sure that there'd be any reason to, if even then, that some of those items would be accelerated. I would not anticipate anything being accelerated, so I would think that it would be a relatively slower schedule than normal in the summertime.
No, I'm not talking about accelerated. I'm talking about that would be the deferral date would be in the summer.
Oh, yeah.
We've already deferred.
I don't think we're jumping. I still think a lot of that would be, some of them may become time specific in the sense that if it needs to be done before, weather permitting, needs to be done before November or something like that. But I think that can be, I would not anticipate there'd be a huge rush of items like that.
Okay.
That would certainly not be our intent. All right, Director Blah.
No report.
Thank you. President of Council.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to, again, express thank you and gratitude to Gavin Smith for providing a pizza here today for everyone who's in attendance. And one thing that we didn't talk about here as well, first, before we get to that, I just want to thank everyone who I saw come out and assist over at the cemetery with Klan and flags for our veterans for Memorial Day on Monday. It was actually a huge turnout, which was a wonderful experience to see all those people come out in support of our troops and everyone who has sacrificed so much for us. So with that being said, with the cemetery board meeting, I know we have actually postponed that. Has there been any conversation with the township at all at this point?
I have not had any.
What I am probably going to make the suggestion as we're starting to come out of this is we still have the ability to do the conference calls here for those who may want to call in. I don't know if there's any thought of doing this that first meeting in June at that point, just prior to the council meeting, if there's any objections from anybody.
President Smith, if I remember correctly, Mr. Krebs had said maybe a meeting or two ago that we were going to wait until toward the end of the year to have that meeting, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think we, Dave is shaking his head yes, but I don't think we actually made that determination. I think we're postponing it until further notice, but there are, it's important that we do come and sit down and have that conversation. I think the millages have to be voted on, and we need to get that done here as well. And then we have to make sure that the budget is passed as well by the group, even though the board has passed it. This will need to get the approval from both the city and the township as well. I think it would be important to try to do this in either the first or second meeting in June. We do have a board meeting tomorrow. I can approach that subject at the board meeting and shoot an email to Dave to have Dave reach out to the council to let everyone know what the
And also we need to reach out to the township.
Well, right. Well,
the township's represented on the board as well. So hopefully we can have that
that's
conversation.
a good place to start. If you can get approval from them, shoot me an email and then I'll go from there. I'll get the word out to everybody else. But that makes sense to me.
I think when we discussed it, Dave, the rules and not be changed to allow for teleconference meetings when we first, because it was right at the start of that. So now with that in place, we may be able to make some arrangements. Whatever the cemetery board has some suggestions, talk to.
And I think the biggest issue we had the first time there was no social distancing and no virtual meetings allowed. And there's with 10 people that had to be up here alone, let alone everyone else, it was going to be pretty tough to achieve that.
Yes.
So, but we'll approach and I'll report back to Dave to reach out to the council.
I'll wait to hear from you.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Committee reports, Finance and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mayor Mackin. We did not meet at our last regularly scheduled committee meeting. We didn't see a need for that, and I do have one piece of legislation that did not go to committee. So I'm gonna, since I don't have a committee report, I'm gonna, as fast as I can, read down Ms. Alkire's legislative summary for everybody, just to get some information on the record what we're going to be voting on, and then that will be it for me. I guess first, maybe I'll just introduce it. Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, I'll introduce it first. I would like to introduce, what do we got? Resolution 28-2020, and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and to dispense with the second and third reading.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bourne.
Yes.
And Mr. Coolman.
Yes.
Ms. Materney.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Matuzak.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Van Hoosen.
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 28, 2020, a resolution declaring it necessary to provide for the removal and special treatment of shade trees and controlling the blight and disease of same, and for planting, maintaining, trimming, and removing shade trees in and along the streets and within public rights of way of the city of Harrisburg.
I had some discussion, Mr. Mayor, on that.
We got to get this, Councilwoman Bourne, please have it introduced, and then we'll be able to open for discussion.
Okay, it's been introduced. I now move that Resolution 28-2020 be passed.
Second.
Discussion.
Okay. Ms.
Thanks,
Bourne,
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Bourne?
This is Councilwoman Bourne. I think that we need to be taking a look at, as I mentioned at the last meeting, that we need to make some cuts in the budget. We are affected by the coronavirus. Unfortunately, I think it's unfortunately here for a while. I'm not a big fan of it. But the fact that the governor has cut $775 million, I don't think we should be raising assessments. And I think we need to reduce some expenditures right now until things get back to normal. So those are my thoughts on that. Plus, we're supposed to be Tree City, USA, and I'm seeing, all this reduction of trees on the right of way, and I don't think that's a good idea right now. I think we can I can see maybe possibly trimming, but I will say that I saw some trees that were trimmed on Kieran Drive and Arrowhead Drive that were, the neighbors said they thought they kind of been hacksawed a little bit. So I think we can maybe possibly, if we're going to trim, don't hack it to death. You know what I'm saying? So those are my thoughts on that. But I think as far as trees go, we need to be Tree City, USA, not deforestation of trees, USA.
Okay, am I up?
Are you done?
Yes, thank you.
I would just quickly say, if you have concerns, if a resident has concerns about the division's trimming of trees, which is something we are working to do, because it is very important that we are Tree City, and we want to make sure that the appearance is important to us. So if there are concerns, please let us know, and we can talk to those residents and communicate with them, because we certainly want to make sure we're doing it well.
Thank you, Ms. Bourne. One of the reasons for this, because we are a Tree City, that's what we're doing here. And the money that this is a three-step process that we're going through, and this is for assessments on real estate tax bills. It's not coming out of our income tax collections, what we're looking at right here. So at any rate, I want to read real quick what this resolution is about. Resolution 28-2020 declares the necessity of a street tree assessment for the purpose of maintaining and planting street trees in the public right-of-way. The street tree assessment is a 12-month assessment. In 2019, the administration revisited the collection and special assessments for lighting and street trees in an effort to align the revenue with the actual expenses of the individual municipal operation. The 2020 legislation represents the same amount of millage as in 2019. In 2019, it was determined that the previous amount of $50,000, which was prior to 2019, was insufficient to cover the cost of the annual street tree maintenance program. Based on that review, the assessment was recalculated at a rate of 0.1 mils, which was expected to generate $70,000 in revenue. If authorized, the resolution of necessity will be forwarded to the auditor for a certified estimate of revenue. This matter, as I said, was not presented to the Finance Committee, and I approve its direct presentation for City Council. On a financial review, the resolution of necessity is the first step in pursuing the assessments. The amount has not been modified from the 2019 collection and remains at the rate of 0.1 mils. The 2020 budget included an anticipated $70,000 in revenue. As of April 30th, 2020, the city has received $36,500 and change in street tree assessments, which is more than halfway there in less than 4 months through the year. So we're a third of the way through the year, and we're more than halfway there. So it sounds like we're probably going to make it because it's not based on income. The legal review, the assessment process requires 3 pieces of legislation: a resolution of necessity, is what I'm presenting tonight, an ordinance to proceed, and an assessing ordinance. The passage of the resolution of necessity will allow for the finance director to request the assessment amounts from the Wood County auditor. Once the certified estimate of property tax revenue is received by the city, it will be presented to the Finance Committee for our review and direction of proceeding with the assessment. And so that provides everyone with a little bit of background on what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing, and maybe a little bit more clarity on what it actually entails.
Thank you.
This is Councilwoman Attorney. I have a comment I'd like to make on that too.
Sure.
The attorneys in the group can correct me if I'm wrong, but if we are not proactive in maintaining and identifying bad trees and taking them down, there is a certain amount of liability involved.
That is correct.
And that's the only. Thank you very much. That's all I wanted to say about that. Especially if they've been reported to us, that's definitely a liability.
I agree with you, Councilman Attorney.
Any other discussion? If not, roll call.
Okay, Mr. McGarty.
Yes.
Mr. Colvin.
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Ms. Bourne.
No.
Mr. Tippett.
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak.
Yes.
And Ms. Materney.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Mackin, I'm looking at your list of 2020 budget status as of April 30th, 2020. Is there anything in here, for instance, the additional resurfacing dollars? Are there any contracts that we've already entered into and committed to something that we're now going to defer that we need to be concerned about?
Good afternoon or good evening again. This is Bridget Cabot, City Administrator. The contract for the resurfacing program that we let and awarded just a short month ago was not utilizing the additional dollars. That contract had already been let when we were doing the amended budget process. So those dollars have not been touched or committed.
Okay, and then the downtown ADA construction, that's not something that we're holding off on that. But is that, we can do that if we want to. We don't have somebody.
We're currently, as a reminder, we're currently in the phase where we collected the ADA assessment from our outside consultants, and we were getting ready. We had actually scheduled a couple of events with the actual downtown business owners to share their report, go over the report, gather their concerns, to then go back to our consultants to make sure that we were correctly analyzing the city right away. Our next step then was to, once that was complete, was then to engage an engineering firm. There's still dollars in the budget to do that, but these construction dollars would be something that we would hold off to the future on because we do have some time.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess I've informally spoken with the Ability Center.
That's what I was going with it. We wouldn't be doing this if they wouldn't have come forward and asked us to do this, or basically.
They put it up in several areas of weakness. Correct.
Right. So, given that, are they okay with us deferring?
Yeah, we're basically, we can't meet, and that was one of the big functions of it, and they understood that. So it's still out there and something, but they understand that.
So they know
we're
looking to defer.
Yeah.
Okay with that. Okay. That's
As I've mentioned before, the downtown is already ADA accessible. We're wasting dollars on that when we could be putting that into police, fire, maintaining the parks, and keeping the water clean. Why are we wasting our time with projects that we don't need to be doing? We're in a phase right now where, as I mentioned before, the governor just cut $775 million in cuts. I don't understand why we are any different than anybody or any other municipality with thinking about that. We need to be thinking about that very strongly.
Hey, Deborah.
I'd like to address that.
There's people Deborah announces herself, so that way those who are listening.
Okay, that was Councilwoman Bourne.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
We've heard these comments that all of a sudden we should be cutting dramatically because we're in dire straits. Anyone that is listening should know that Bridget provided us a summary that says we've got about almost $11 million in revenue or expenses we can defer, including our general fund reserve. So this notion that there's some imminent threat to the city's financial stability is a bunch of nonsense. Come July 15, we'll know better exactly where we stand. And by August, we'll have an even clearer picture. But I don't think the sky is falling at this moment. And I think...
Well, my concern, Councilman McCarthy...
Let him finish, please.
I think we should defer these expenditures properly. Jim asked a great question about the downtown ADA construction. That's being deferred, and we feel confident that we're not in any imminent risk of some complaint or litigation with them. And as far as whether those improvements are needed, I mean, we hired a consultant, if I'm not mistaken, who's an expert in this area and identified the things we need to do. I think we're doing the right thing in both regards, and I think we can wait on it, but eventually it'll need to happen.
Councilman McCarthy, what I'm trying to look ahead, and so we're not in bad straits with our finances. Just because the money is out there doesn't mean you spend it. I know that much. And I can also say that I think we need to be thinking about the people that are losing their jobs as we speak, and or furloughed. I'm not sure if they're coming back. The people at Owens, Illinois, which is a large employer in Perrysburg, they've cut a lot of people. That's going to hurt our tax base. I think we need to be thinking of those things, thinking ahead.
Well, I just to say that nobody else is doing that, I guess it's just quickly say the administration, as we provide to council the purpose of we have been as transparent as we can. This council, like councils before it, have worked diligently to be very fiscally responsible. I know that the finance committee is not penny foolish. It really looks at all the issues, and as anyone who's been in a meeting with Jim knows, he asks questions about the expenditures of money and makes sure that they are not inappropriate. It was something that was passed in the budget, and we had a consultant to say that there are issues with ADA compliant. I think we do want to be a community that's welcoming, and it is ADA compliant. But I also think that fiscal responsibility requires us to go slowly to make sure we have the money, long-term and short-term, and second off, that we make sure we do it right, consistent with what the bringing the business owners into the discussion so that they're part of the process, because it will be them who will benefit from the improvements. And if they're done poorly, they could see a detriment, and we certainly do not want that to happen. So I hear what you've said. I believe that we've addressed that issue, and we will continue to move forward with all expenditures cautiously, prudently, and making sure we're doing it for the best interest of the city, short-term and long-term.
I certainly hope that we are, and we do, because I have run into several people throughout the city that have either lost their jobs, good-paying jobs, or they are furloughed, and they're worried about how they're going to be able to pay for things. So I think we need to be aware of that.
Yes, we are aware of that, and I think that's something any municipality or any elected official is conscientious of, given the state of the current virus and the impact on the budgets. So we will certainly move cautiously.
Thank you, Mayor.
This is Councilman Coolman. I just want to kind of say I fully support exactly what Tim echoed on this. That it's very important for our citizens to understand that the administration is on top of this. They are providing us documents. I thank Bridget for the report she gave us the other day about the deferments and the general fund status, and we will know more come June. So I just want to echo what he said, and I support everything he said in his statement. So I just want that on the record as well.
Thank you. All right, moving forward. You don't have a date yet, do you?
Just our regularly scheduled day.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right, the Service Committee.
No report. We have not met. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Councilwoman McCurney. Sorry about that. We have not met. We have not. There is no report. The next scheduled meeting is May 27th at 5:30. I will let the fellow committee members know by the 26th whether or not the meeting will be canceled. And a report.
Thank you. Safety Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have not met. Our next scheduled committee meeting is May 26th at 6 p.m. Currently, we don't have anything on the agenda, so that may well be canceled as well. But since it's safety, we'll keep it on the books. And just to comment about the deferred and general fund expenditures, I want to thank the administration for coming out with this. I think it's an important exercise to go through so that we can see where priorities are. And it is a deferred and/or potential save. But I just appreciate knowing that we've thought through that. I do have a resolution to read, and we will, if it's seconded, we will have discussion after I read it. I would like to introduce Resolution 27/2020 and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its reading by number and title only, and to dispense with the second and third reading.
Second. Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bourne,
Yes.
Mr. Coolman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. Matuzak,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Hook.
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 27, 2020, accepting the proposal and authorizing an agreement with Acumet Billing Incorporated for the provision of EMS billing and collection services for the Perrysburg Fire Division and declaring an emergency.
I move that resolution 27, 2020 be passed as an emergency measure.
Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I have discussion.
Please go ahead.
A couple different things as I was going through the billing service agreement. First of all, it says the start date is May 1st, 2020. And then it says the effective date is May 1st, 2020, or the first day of the month immediately. Following this date that the agreement is accepted by Acumed, whichever is later, it says. Then, I have a few more comments, if I could, please. Under governing law, it says, as to all matters including validity, construction, and effect, this agreement shall be governed by and construed in accordance with the state of Ohio without regard to its principles of conflicts of law. However, when you go to Section C, HIPAA Business Associate Agreement, which is Acumet Billing, a Michigan corporation, quote unquote, business associate, it says on here very specifically that if we have any issues under governing law, this agreement shall be governed and construed in accordance with the laws of the state of Michigan. It should be Wood County, Ohio. I mean, we don't want to have to go up to Michigan and let them run the show. We should be able to run the show. So I guess I would like to know why we'd want to be governed by the state of Michigan. And also under insurance, it says business associates shall obtain no later than 1 month from effective date of this agreement and maintain during the term of this agreement liability. Would that be after? This should be in place immediately, right?
The law director is going to answer those questions.
This is Law Director Laura Alkire. So your first question was on the effective date of the contract, and the fact that it stated, I think, May 1st and went on to state upon execution, whatever is later. Acumet recognized that we had to present this to City Council. There was some question as to when it might be approved. If you'll recall, it was presented on May 5th and tabled and represented today. So if council were to authorize the agreement, once it's executed will be when it actually takes effect. Excuse me. As far as governing law, the agreement itself has one attachment, and that would be the HIPAA agreement that council and the board referenced. The agreement itself clearly states that we utilize the laws of the state of Ohio. As far as the governing laws of the agreement, the data may be stored in Michigan, which is why that's what's relative to that attachment. However, I would believe that the language within the actual agreement stating that the preferential law of choice being the state of Ohio would be what would be controlling there.
Yeah, and I may add to that, Ms. Alkire, if I could. My also concern is that it says jurisdiction shall be Oakland County, Michigan. And I guess I have concerns that if there be a disgruntled employee or somebody like that with the HIPAA laws that I'm aware that are very important and are a privacy issue, my concern would be all of those. What if somebody gets into that base and then they, ruin things? You know what I'm saying? Or if there's an issue, that would be a concern I would have.
We would share the same concern. One of the requirements within that agreement that you referenced is their requirement to maintain sufficient insurance liability, not only for their actions, but also on any cybersecurity measures to be able to protect the privacy and the sanctity of the information that's being entered into the system of our patients. So we do have that safeguard with it.
I would say until we have a few of those items changed, I don't think that we should sign off on it yet. I think we should table it till the next meeting. And if those items are changed, I would certainly vote for it at the next city council meeting.
Any other discussion?
I just want to make sure I understand what I heard. I think Ms. Alcalde said that none of those items need to be changed. Is that correct?
This is Law Director Alkire. Yes, that would be my recommendation.
Okay. The only question that I would have, this wouldn't be for you, I don't think, Ms. Alcalde, would be what types of procedures, and this is probably for Mr. Krebs, or would we have in place to make sure, since they're going to, I believe they're going to maintain and house all of our data for the billing process up there. I think that's what I just heard. Are we going to have any type of internal controls in place to make sure that when they bill us, they're billing us for the right amount, we're paying them the right amount based on, I mean, if we allow them to do the work and to do the billing and then we just pay it, then we pretty much don't have any controls in place to make sure that we're paying what we should be paying. Is there something that we have in mind that we're going to do to try to mitigate that?
Good evening again. This is Bridget Cabot, the city administrator, and I may also call on Chief Ruiz. But my understanding is they're utilizing our data from our software system, pulling it, extracting it, pulling it into their billing system. So we'll be able to run a report on our end of what we sent them. That they in turn, once they bill and collect, they'll be submitting a report to us. So we'll know what got billed against each individual account, and we'll be able to audit that.
Okay, so we'll be able to do that. I guess my question is, are we going to do that? Because we're saying that the person that we're currently paying to do our billing is not going to be on payroll anymore. So someone's going to have to pick up that responsibility. I just want to make sure that somebody's kind of overseeing that.
That's a fair question. I also note that that's something, just like any other contract where we're engineering or for a road or anything else, administration have people or they're placed to make sure that all contracts are monitored, all things are complied with, and that those kind of things happen. I'll let the chief address that, but I think that's also, I think this administration has demonstrated on a number of occasions that we have top quality leadership people who it's their job to make sure that things are properly managed regarding contracts. And I would anticipate that Chief Ruiz is going to say something on that same point.
Rudy Ruiz, Fire Chief, Treasurer, Fire Division. Good evening, members of council, Mr. Mayor. Part of that whole process will include a quality assurance and quality control component so that we will have control of all the documents that go in and come out. So it will not only verify the billing that comes back from them, but also it'll verify the type of patient assessment that we provide, i.e. whether it be basic life support or advanced life support. So we will be controlling that on a monthly basis.
Okay, thank you. I think you made clear I wasn't implying that we don't have good leadership, but I think it's kind of my duty to at least ask the question. That's all. I hope not. Thank you.
Councilwoman Attorney here. I just have one quick question, and I think I kind of know the answer. I was reading the contract, and isn't there language in there that if either side of us is in violation of the contract, we can cancel it?
This is Law Director Alkire. There are various clauses. Section 6, termination, does recognize that either party has the right to terminate the agreement in the event that either party defaults on their material obligations. That would be your standard breach language. I think we talked about that at the
yeah, we don't want to terminate the contract. We just want to make sure the billing's done properly. That's all.
Yeah.
Doesn't do anyone any good to terminate the contract.
Ms. Alkire, I think if we could have a couple changes done, like one would be about under the governing law, under the Schedule C, it's under J where it says governing law. If we could have this agreement shall be governed by the state of Ohio rather than the state of Michigan, I think that would be helpful, and not have the jurisdiction shall be Oakland County, it should be Wood County. I don't like them having an upper hand, and that's kind of the sense I'm getting with that. We should have the upper hand.
Laura, does the actual contract provides that it's the state of Ohio that controls? Just to confirm.
But it doesn't say that in the HIPAA. If you look at the HIPAA business associate agreement, it does not say that. It says that in the billing service agreement, but it doesn't say that in the HIPAA business associate agreement.
Mr. Mayor, in the agreement that council would be authorized, if council were to authorize it, that the city would execute, governing law is the state of Ohio. It is an exhibit to that agreement that Councilwoman Bourne is referencing.
And in a contract law in Ohio, the contract trumps the exhibit.
The contract would absolutely prevail over the exhibit.
Thank you. No other discussion or roll call?
Okay, I'll start with Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Van Hoosen.
Yes.
Mr. Coleman.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Matuzak.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Bourne.
No.
Ms. Materney.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
There you have a,
Excuse me.
that's right. You have a,
That concludes my report.
do you have a meeting or no?
We had mentioned it was on
Oh, that's right. You already
May
did. My bad.
26th at 6 p.m. if
Thank you.
needed.
I appreciate that.
It's okay.
Recreation Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. June 9th will be our next meeting, but I have a couple of announcements I wanted to make. One was about Jeff Marzak. I think maybe some of you may have been contacted about him. He's at 135-800 Atuso Drive. He had asked about opening up the tennis courts earlier than June 15th, which was originally mentioned. He was concerned about that, felt that, people should be able to play tennis if they choose to, that type of thing. I think you addressed it a little bit earlier, but I did want to make mention that he has contacted me several times about that. And he had asked, since the governor DeWine has decided on the 26th to open up tennis courts and private courts, if you will. He was wondering if possible if the city of Perrysburg could do that. So I am mentioning that, I'm reporting that, and I was asking for an answer on that.
As I mentioned when I read my mayor's report, I specifically said that we anticipated opening tennis courts on May 26th.
Okay, for sure on May 26th, because I will let him know that. Also, I think everybody
So that's not what I said. We anticipate being able to do that. There are certain things that need to happen. Administration is working very diligently to make sure that it does happen, because I have certainly gotten his emails as well, and a number of other residents want to make sure they can do that as soon as possible. Safety is always a priority, but this is also something we think we can do. So while the governor said May 26th, we're working very diligently to be able to do that, but I cannot for 100% say that it's going to happen. But we hope that that will be the case.
Okay, Jeffrey, you should know Jeff's sitting here in the room with us tonight.
Hello, Jeff. Hello, Mr. Marzak.
Oh, yeah.
You're welcome, Jeff. And then one other thing is Mr. Himlin had asked, and I think several of you touched upon that. I think we all received the same email from him regarding Davis Overlook. He had asked if signs could be posted regarding the problems with the urination, et cetera, that letter that Jonathan had mentioned earlier. I think perhaps it would be good to have some signs posted at Davis Overlook so people are aware of where they're at, especially, and what they need to do.
Can we go over this already?
Yes. I had not heard of the letter before this evening. Administration got it this afternoon, like all council. We certainly will look at that and take the appropriate steps to make sure that users of the park, and it probably has had more users than normal, know the boundaries of the park, because we certainly do not want to interfere in the rights of the neighbors to the park, and we appreciate that he raised the issue in a proper fashion. So we're certainly going to work on that as well as soon as we can.
You're most welcome. And that is the end of my report.
Planning and zoning.
Tim McCarthy, no report. We'll meet on our regular meeting date in June.
Personnel Committee.
Councilman Coolman, I have no report. Our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, May 26th at 5 p.m. I will update members of that committee if we have no agenda items that will be canceled, and I will get that out at the beginning of that week for, I guess, this Friday, I will try to get that out to all the members. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Public utility?
Thank you, Your Honor. I do not have a report as well, but there is a strong possibility we may be having our meeting on May 27th at 6:30 p.m. Just update the committee. There was some emails received, myself as well as the Public Utilities Director and Ms. Cabot, and that we're working on resolving some questions regarding communication of fees between the city and the district, and there may be need to have a conversation on that for the record. So just be prepared that may happen on the 27th, and that will be all. But I would like to thank all of our residents who have called in to listen and stayed with us throughout this whole process tonight. So
Wait a minute. So I'm done. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor?
Before.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, you may.
I have some other business I'd like to mention. One, I would like to thank all of our Perrysburg residents for being, which I think is absolutely wonderful and patient during our crisis, the COVID-19 crisis. And I truly hope that everything will pan out well when we continue to open up things throughout the city. I hope that everybody will be able to enjoy themselves. Once again, I know that things may not be completely normal, but at least somewhat normal, semi-normal. And also I'd like to mention, everybody probably got the email from Michael Kuzno, who owns Kuzno Restoration in Perrysburg, and also Kuzno Medical. He mentioned a lot of things regarding the budget and a lot of businesses, et cetera, if you all read it, and I'm sure you did. And he points out as well that businesses are affected by this, and we need to be paying attention to our finances and our budget. It's my understanding that he had asked for the budget to appear online. I guess my understanding was it did not appear online. So thank you to Ms. Cabot for putting that up. I much appreciate that.
I think the budget is already online. The city clerk of council and finance director Dave Krebs has confirmed, shaking his head or nodding his head, that it is online and it's accessible to people. Okay, any other business? If not, before we,
Ms. Warren, can you forward that email to me, because I did not receive that?
Thank you. I was going to ask the same thing, because I don't think any of us received it.
I will absolutely be happy to do that. And I think, I forgot to mention also on the recreation, June 9th is our meeting, if we have it, at 6:30. And I'll let everybody know in advance.
I did not.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to say the same thing as Jan. Can you forward that to all of council, Deborah? I don't think
Yeah,
I'd be happy to. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Quickly, I just want to note that Memorial Day is next Monday, and I'm sure I speak for all council and the entire administration for wanting to thank all the servicemen and women who have contributed to this country, and recognize those that have given their lives on behalf of the country. The American Legion was not able to sponsor the parade or have its normal service, but I hope everybody takes a moment on Monday to acknowledge and recognize the people who have served this country and lost their lives on its behalf. So, no other business. I move to Councilman Smith moves to adjourn.
All right.